And here we are live. This is a part two, a tribute to Eddie Van Halen, who passed away yesterday. And I thought it would be great to have Alan, because I know he's a huge Van Halen fan, and of course, a musician's perspective, a musician's musician, which is Aldo Nova, giving his perspective on one of the greatest guitarists of our time, right? Aldo, thanks for coming.
More than just a guitarist. I mean, he was like a genius. So so yesterday was a dark day, not just for guitar players in the world, but I think a lot of people in general, because of the fact that he wrote so many hits and on. I mean, it was a dark day for a lot of people. I think it just was like it shattered a good part of the world. So.
Alan, what was your first, your initial, you found out Eddie Van Halen? I know you texted me. I'm sure you texted all your buddies.
It was just, we there was rumors he wasn't doing well. We knew about his past struggles with cancer. Then he landed up doing a tour afterwards. And then David Lee Roth coming out with stuff the last couple of months saying, I think Van Halen's over. He didn't want to get into specifics. But still, again, it was a shock to everybody yesterday when the news came out. So again, you always hope that somebody pulls through with that, but
they never really talked about how bad it was. You'd see him at these shows, and I mean, we knew he had throat cancer, but we never knew it. But supposedly that spread to his brain and to a bunch of his organs. So I mean, it's like it was an incredible shock. When I found out, I was nearly in tears, as was many guitar players, but many people. I mean, my wife included. I mean, it's like for her, it was like, oh my God, Eddie Van Halen. I mean, he was the heart and soul of Van Halen. He was Van Halen. He was the main songwriter of Van Halen. I mean, he wasn't just. I mean, he was a genius. Not only was a composer, not only was he a guitar player. I mean, a guitar player is a guitar player, but there's two ways to. I'll explain that in a couple of minutes. But just the songs he wrote that normal people and all of us know. I mean, I made a small list. It's just songs he wrote. Ain't Talking About Love, Panama, Dance the Night Away, Unchained, Hot for Teacher, Running with the Devil, Everybody Wants Some, and The Cradle Will Rock, Jamie's Crying, Ice Cream Man, Why Can't This Be Love, Jump, Dreams, Finish What You Started, When It's Love, Love Walks In. I mean, talk about a guy who can write a song. I mean, and again, Jump. I mean, I don't know one keyboard player that doesn't play that riff. Keyboard riffs. I mean, he was worldwide. I mean, that's what he did. He was also an innovator. I mean, he never wanted to settle for the status quo. I mean, starting in with his guitar. I mean, that's the Frankenstein. I mean, he built that from spare parts. He put it together himself with a pickup from this and a Floyd Rose and a neck from that, and then that was his paint job. I mean, he did that with spray paint and
masking tape.
Masking tape, yeah. And if you show somebody that guitar today, anybody in the world, they say that's Eddie Van Halen's guitar. So everything was like, he was like an innovator. He was like one of a kind. I mean, but to me, there was only two game changers in the way guitar was singing. And the first one was Jimi Hendrix, who of our generation, like the guys like me that are between 55 and 60 years old or, whatever, were like, as a guitar player, Jimi Hendrix was the one who made me want to pick up the guitar because he was making sounds out of it, and the way he was playing, bending the strings and feedback. And everything, Jimi Hendrix was the first groundbreaker. And also, but the thing about Jimi Hendrix is he could write a song. I don't think there's one person that doesn't know Purple Haze, you know what I mean? Or Fire and stuff like that. And then came next level to change it, number two, Eddie Van Halen. He comes, and when he does Eruption, that just, everybody's like, mind is blown. I mean, completely. So he took it completely to the next level. And then that made kids want to pick up a guitar also and say, I want to be like Eddie. So that's the second phase of next level. Let's change the guitar playing what it is. Hendrix was one, and Eddie Van Halen just took it to the next level. And even nowadays, you'll find people tapping and on the guitar. They just still 40 years later, from 1978 to now, he's one of the biggest influences for this new generation of guitar players. That's 40 years.
Yeah.
But again, like Hendrix, he could write a song. Like I said, all the songs that I named, everybody knows it. I mean, so, him dying yesterday wasn't just the guitar players, mourning him, but just regular people, just people that hummed their song, that hummed, all the songs, Dream Walks In with Man Hagar, but, all of the hits, like, with David Lee Roth, that whole first incarnation of Van Halen. Plus, they used to play at a club called Gazzari's back in Hollywood back in the day, and he used to do Eruption back then. And David Lee Roth made him turn his back to the audience to play that, just because he didn't want people to steal his style.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's true. It's true. You figure Dave would just do something like that, but he wouldn't want to do it. So they get signed, and Ted Templeman, on the record, since they were such an amazing live band, he didn't want to take away the energy that they had live. So if you listen to the whole Van Halen record, number one, the guitar, Eddie's guitar, is panned all the way to the left. It's not panned in center. It's not in center. It's not stereo. It's one guitar panned to the left. The bass is center. The drums are center. The vocals are center. But Eddie's so it's a power trio for real. He doesn't need to have doubles, and his solos are on the right. I think they're panned right, but he's still comping on the left side. So the whole record's like that.
That's a good point.
But it's Ted Templeman was smart that way. He didn't want to take the what made Van Halen Van Halen and put the guitar player there. He didn't need to be anywhere else anyway. Just one guitar. That's all he needed. So
when I used to put on my Walkman back in the day and I listened to Van Halen 2, I remember the guitar being on one side, even on Van Halen 2, and it just the way he spaced it, like you said, and where he panned the different instruments. So there wasn't a lot of doubling.
He didn't need doubling, anyway. Doubling is just glorified mono. Nowadays, even on my records, everything's in stereo. So sometimes my cat presses on the mono button, I can't even tell. So, but at least with it's true. So Eddie, okay, let's not take away the magic of Van Halen. Pan him on one side, put the bass where it would be on a live stage, and put the drums where it would be, and that's literally what you get. You get Van Halen. That's what made that record so special. Apart from the fact that they had great songs, apart from the fact that here's this phenomenon called Eddie Van Halen that nobody ever heard of, that just all of a sudden takes guitar to the next level. And like I was telling Jimmy before the show, I don't think I'll see somebody else take it to another level beyond that in my lifetime, at least. So I'm really wondering who's going to be. We have a lot of great guitar players out there now, but none of them come to that level. They're not game changers, is what I'm saying. They don't really affect the way people play guitar. You know what I mean? People, sure, they want to copy. I don't want to mention names, but they'll copy some things. But a guy that actually literally changed the face of guitar, there was Hendrix, then there was Eddie Van Halen. So to see somebody come along like that on level 3, I don't think I'll see it in my lifetime. I don't know if there will be somebody like that. Mm-hmm. And if there is, all the more power to guitar players.
That's such a great point. Who's the next? You're right. There are just a YouTube filled of great guitar players, but who's the game changer? Will there ever be a game changer?
Well, I think that there's a lot of the guitar players out there that suffer from diarrhea of the fretboard, is what I call it.
Okay.
Just play as many notes as they can in the shortest amount of time. But they flash. But as far as changing the whole game, the game of guitar, the way it's played, completely innovative, it's it's nothing. Eddie was unique. Like I was talking to you before, he even would drive his amps by chain. He built this voltage regulator that the more he put the voltage up in the electricity, the more the amp would distort. And the less it was, the cleaner it was. But so that was his idea. I mean, it's not something that was stock. He built that himself. So he was just an innovator in everything. I mean, he didn't never settle for the status quo. In other words, he didn't want things that he could buy off the shelf. He had to make them himself. Also, another thing that people don't know is when he says, "Why can't this be love?" And when people hear that riff, people think it's a guitar, but it's not. It's a Kurzweil keyboard. And that was the beauty of Eddie, is that he can manipulate keyboards as well to make them sound the way he sounds, the way he made them sound. I mean, I'm pretty sure 100% of the 99% of the population out there thinks that that's a guitar.
Well, and the Cradle Will Rock, right? The intro to Cradle Will Rock, it's a keyboard, right? What's that? I can't make that sound, Alan. And the Cradle Will Rock, right? There's that keyboard sound, but a lot of people thought it was always guitar over the years. I mean, he does a lot of that. Absolutely.
I think in the first years, no, there wasn't any keyboards on this stuff. I mean, he started. He was trained as a pianist. So and then he started playing guitar. But so he was an amazing keyboard player. I mean, if you listen to Dreams, he played with Van Hagar. I mean, the piano's killer.
Right now, another good example.
Right now, yeah, exactly. But like I said, he wrote great songs, and he also was like the keyboard part, the jump, the intro. That's so simple that it's genius.
And the way the guitar solo goes right into the keyboard solo seamlessly,
Yes.
it's just.
I mean, like I said, there's not one keyboard player that I know. Even I played jump. You know what I mean? I learned how to play jump because it was so cool. Because it's got one steady note in the bottom, and the top notes are changing. So he was a great writer.
But to go back to Aldo's. Oh, sorry, Jim. To go to Aldo's point, I mean, I remember back in the day, everybody, we won't name names, but everybody was copying Eddie. And then all of a sudden, Eddie goes to keyboards and he reinvents himself as this keyboard and changes his style basically. And I remember saying like, hey, you're the original. Why are you changing your style? Because there's just too many copycats for him. And he actually, to go back to talking about an innovator, he basically kind of changed his style and go with, yes, Sammy Hagar was there too, and there was more construction to the songs. But I mean, he reinvented himself because everybody was sounding like him. Where do you go when everybody's sounding like him?
I'm not sure, but I think that Eddie played the keyboard because that's what he heard in his head. He didn't hear a guitar. He heard that in his head, and he programmed that sound. It was an Oberheim synth, and that's what he wanted. He wanted the riff. He could have played it on guitar, but it wouldn't have sounded as good. So him, as a songwriter and being a composer, he played for the song. He never played what wasn't for the song. Like the beauty about Eddie Van Halen is, sure, he solos, but also a beautiful side about him is that I hear, because I'm a guitar player, is let's say you hear the comping when you're hearing chords, when he goes down in Panama, when David Lee Roth goes, I'm gonna, go down and, take the thing between my legs or whatever, and you hear these chords in the back going, bop, 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 just comping. And that's the part of Eddie that I prefer. It's like the soloing, he's like the best, no doubt about it. But the fact that he can actually comp almost to the way that a jazz player comps, I mean,
yeah.
And he never had, he only had one volume on his guitar. He didn't have tones, he didn't have switches. He did all this, if he wanted a dirty sound, he would put the volume to 10. If he wanted to clean it up, he'd bring the volume down. So,
do you think that David Lee Roth brought something different than Sammy Hagar to Eddie? Do you think that he brought a more of a raw, I don't know.
Well, I think he did, because they grew up, they were playing clubs together. And when you play clubs together, you develop a certain bond. They were playing to clubs, so like I said, Gazaris, and they got the audience reaction. So their set by the time they got to the first album was exactly what was like the hits in the club, what what people reacted to in the clubs. Then after that, with Van Hagar, "Why Can't These Be Loved" was a great song.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think he did like a lot of great work with Sammy. I mean,
There it is.
exactly.
There it is.
And of course, he's got that logo. Beauty of it. I love logos. VH.
Come on. Look at this. When this came out, look at this album cover, right? It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, it was taken from a painting, right? From, I guess it was modified.
Yeah, they had to pay up big bucks to use that. Exactly.
And, they added the cigarettes, right?
They did. You have to pay big bucks.
Yeah.
The little baby smoking, though. I think, was the baby smoking in the original, Alan? I'm not sure.
I think so. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Hey,
just to go back to Aldo's point, this is a great book, and going back for Eddie Van Halen, there's two constants for me when they started out. His smile, he was always smiling, every photo, and he always had a cigarette, right? But to go back to Aldo's point, here's a quote by Jeff Beck. He brought tapping to the forefront, and I still think he was one of the tastiest players doing it. It wasn't his fault that all these other horrendous people tried to emulate him. I actually saw Eddie play some blues once, and it was really beautiful. It would be great to hear him play more in that style. That's Jeff Beck talking. And
exactly.
No slouch of his own. So.
No, he's not. I've been in the studio with Jeff Beck from Young Guns too. So I mean, he's no slouch. So he's considered one of the best also.
Exactly.
Eddie played for what was necessary. Even if the song didn't need that many notes, he didn't play that many notes. If it needed more notes, he would play more notes. It's whatever. He was in control of whatever it needed. Like Jump, like I said, he heard a keyboard part at the beginning. He did a keyboard part. He didn't want to say, "Well, I'm going to put this on guitar." That's what he heard. That's what he did.
And to your point, Adrian Vandenberg said, in that respect, he was the natural successor to Jimi Hendrix, in my opinion. A true pioneer. It's exactly what you said, Aldo. He was the next Hendrix, or whatever you want to call it, the natural successor. I guess that's what it is, right?
Exactly. The next level, the next game changer. I mean, like I said before, there's a lot of good guitar players out there, but they're not, either they don't know how to write songs. A lot of them can play fast, they can do, whatever, but to write like hit songs that people will remember for eternity and for a long time, that aren't just guitar player songs. There's a lot of guys that play guitar, and they're just songs for guitar players. These people, I mean, like Hendrix and Van Halen, who had named a bunch of songs, I mean, everybody listened to them. Daughters, sisters, brothers, the whole family was humming. The radio was like, had Van Halen on. It just made you, it was happy music. You know what I mean? It's just, he made like with happy music. So I think yesterday when he passed away, it was, like I said, a really dark day for a lot of people. It affected, I mean, my wife was like shattered. I mean,
Aldo, my mother told me, that's how it crossed generations. Like he wasn't just the guitarist that only me, you, and Alan know about. He was the guitarist that, our grandparents knew about. He was of every generation, because he was an iconic pop figure, right? He was Eddie Van Halen. I think at least when I graduated, now you're talking about 1984, 85, high school that is, I think all the guys had long hair because of Eddie Van Halen, that certain sort of long hair. I mean, because he made it popular in the late 70s, early 80s, right? So.
But I mean, look at Woodstock. They all had long hair there too.
But it was. I just remember when Van Halen was super popular, everybody just grew the hair out like then and there. No question. You're right. Of course, Woodstock, everybody had long hair. They had extra long hair. They had hair down to here.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it goes back to Aldo's point. One of the reasons why Van Halen was so popular, and they're still it's affecting people like this today, is because David Lee Roth himself said it. We played music that people could dance to, right? Yeah. So they got the girls. They attracted as many girls as they did guys, and this is stuff like "Dance the Night Away," "Jump." I mean, nobody's got that crossover that Van Halen had. So
and they had great videos. The Hot for Teachers, a killer video.
Yeah, it's killer.
I mean, they had the mini me's. They had the miniature, the young them, and the
Pretty Woman, where they dressed up a samurai, cowboy, and
yeah, but Hot for Teachers great. And They just had
Actually, it's very similar, and that's why I like you're on here. Another reason why I like that you're on, you're a multi instrumentalist. Like Van Halen was a multi instrumentalist,
but not the drums. But
not
not the drums.
and not the drums for Eddie either.
You know that. I'm not gonna say what I do on drums. I suck on drums. Okay. Maybe Eddie was the same way. Maybe that's why I was
I don't think he played drums.
around. You know, so.
You didn't have to. You had Alex, exactly.
But to my point, the studio, it was a big thing for Eddie. The studio, and so for you too, right? It's the studio. That's where you sort of create the magic. He had 5150. He built it, from ground up. It was a guest house, right? And that was another thing.
I don't even put myself in the same league as Van Halen. I'm like way, 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 way down.
But you can relate. That's what I'm saying. You can relate.
I can relate to somebody, again, he wants to create. He was a creator. It was his own studio. He made his own amp, the 5150 amps by PV. I mean, EVH, everything was designed for him. He made people. He didn't accept the norm. He wanted his own amp. He designed his own amp, sounded his own amp, made his own guitars, made the voltage regulators, wrote great songs, played an amazing guitar, and affected a whole generation.
He even influenced Marty McFly in Back to the Future. That's what somebody just said.
Here's another great book about the early days, Running with the Devils by Noel Monk, who was their manager at the time. And you know what? Eddie just wanted to play guitar. Forget about traveling. Forget about, just get me out on the stage and let me play guitar. That's all he, almost an idiot savant when it comes to that, right? It was like so focused on the guitar and writing great tunes. Nothing else mattered. Sammy went over the first time. He opened up the fridge. There's nothing but frozen pizzas inside and frozen meals. Like they didn't even care. All his clothes was wrinkled. Sammy shows up to the first rehearsal. He's wearing like Armani suits, and Eddie's all the clothes are all wrinkled because they're literally living out of a suitcase in his house. So
right. Another thing, like I said about Hendrix, also. I mean, we didn't have YouTube back then, and so Hendrix to copy it. So. I remember I wanted to be like Hendrix, as good as Hendrix. So we aspired to be the great, like one of the like that. So back then I used to have a 33 and a vinyl LP, and I had a turntable with a little speaker in it, and you used to have to put the needle and do that and let it play for a bar. And then you used to have to learn that, and then let it go for 2 bars, and let it go and just skip. And
that's why I never learned to play guitar properly.
No, I mean, that's how you learn. And then, but Eddie, people, that whole generation aspired to be Eddie. Yes. They aspired to be the great one. And people, what they call it, woodshedding. So that means they just practice and practice and practice. It led people to practice to do that, compared to today's music where people aspire to be mediocre, or less than mediocre. So back then.
It's all about the hits. It's all about the hits on YouTube.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, like WAP.
Here's an interesting point that I read today, or it was yesterday night, and it's Dillinger is saying this. Hey, Jimmy, according to the report this morning, both Sammy and Ed reconciled in secret. So they were texting each other, Sammy and Eddie, but they just weren't telling anybody because there was this. They didn't want to show the world that they were sort of connecting because everybody would have talked about, is there going to be a reunion? But they were actually talking till his end days. So that's good to know. That's good to know that Sammy and Eddie were friends until the end, right?
Yeah, of course.
That's cool. I got a lot of comments here. I mean, I could read this stuff here if everybody wants to write. Eddie actually played a bit on Back to the Future. I don't know if he actually played, but they're sort of doing. Michael J. Fox at the end of doing Chuck Berry, he started doing hammer-ons.
Yeah, hammer-ons, yeah.
That's right.
just goes to show you how much influence he had,
Yeah. Right now, MTV Classic is playing all of Eddie Van Halen's videos. Surprise, MTV still has these great videos. Okay, well, sure. All right. Also, he married Valerie Bertinelli, right? I mean, okay, they got divorced, but
that was the star wedding. Let's put it this way. That was
and that brought him into the mainstream. I mean, he did Saturday Night Live back in the day. He was a mainstream. Not only was he a great guitarist, a great composer, part of one of the biggest bands in the world, but he also married, Valerie Bertinelli, who was another star at the time on One Day at a Time, if everybody remembers.
He did soundtracks for some of her movies or made for TV movies. He was in the soundtracks as well. And
Yeah, yeah.
The saddest thing I read yesterday was on Twitter, and that was his son Wolfgang that wrote, you know, today is the day that changed my life, or something like that. And I had to say goodbye to one of the greatest fathers that one could ever ask for. It was just like so touching. I mean, you know. And then he's posted this picture of his father who's got a big smile on his face. So
Always a smile, yeah. Always a smile.
yeah, so
yeah,
and that was really touching. You know, so for me, and for a lot, for just anybody that would read that, you know. So I can imagine how he felt. You know, it's also being in Van Halen himself. God knows how his brother felt. My God.
Yeah, exactly. They were very tight.
Tour like that. So
Aldo, when's the first time you saw Van Halen perform?
I think I saw them in 1982 in California,
Okay.
and
82.
still with David. And
Women and Children First? Is that what it was? 82? No, it was after that.
yeah, but they were playing all their hits anyway, so you can't really tell which album was there. But it was just an amazing show.
Montreal Forum, Diver Down.
Diver Down.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, you go for Diver Down because you're here to listen to Diver Down, but you know they don't only play so much for Diver Down. They do their whole catalog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
My first album was Fair Warning, was my first Van Halen album. And just the beginning of Mean Street, with all the tapping and everything does.
Mean Street.
It's a great introduction to the whole album. It's a bit of a darker album. And it just starts off and just that opening riff, like all the albums, the opening riffs on every song, it was all Eddie. So
I was lucky enough to actually listen to the night when Van Halen in 1978 when they came out with the first album. That was like that's the thing about beauty about being old. You get to be there for the first shot, you know, like the first, not for the second wave. So
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think back. I mean, when was my first exposure? It's the first album. I don't remember it when it was being released, but I remember people having it around, listening to it, right? You go to somebody's house, the album's there and they put it on, and older cousins or whoever it was, right? And you just go, what is this? And you just, an eruption, like you mentioned at the beginning. Wait a second, what is going on here? Eruption.
I didn't even, that's the thing that changed people. How is he doing that? Where is that sound coming from? You know, that's a guitar. And like, what is this? That I didn't even mention Eruption because there's nothing to say about Eruption. That, like I said, just changed the world. That was the game changer. You know, how did he make that sound? And then he started tapping. I did a little tribute of my own on my Facebook page, fan page. And, you know, people there are going, well, he didn't invent tapping. Well, if he didn't invent tapping, he sure made the world know what it was. You know?
Exactly.
So I mean, Eruption was just like, it wasn't just tapping. It was just like, it was a creation. It was like, nobody had ever heard anything like that before. I'll just read
another quote. This is it's December of 06. My wife and I were cruising around listening to satellite radio with our 3-year-old in the back seat when Van Halen's You Really Got Me started ripping out of the car speakers. When they got to the guitar solo, my son asked if he would need 2 guitar picks to play like that. Nearly 3 decades later, and even a 3-year-old knows that Eddie's guitar playing ain't from this fucking planet. That's Tommy T for Cinderella.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So when you talk about innovator, that's I mean, and just like you said, a game changer. That just proves your point.
Game changer. 2 game changers. Hendrix, that affected my generation, that made us everybody want to play guitar, that just like bending those strings. But again, a songwriter, a great songwriter. Eddie comes around, next level. Eruption, also a great songwriter. You know what I mean? They have similarities, but again, he took it to the next level. But again, I'll say it again. There's a lot of great guitar players out there, but they're not game changers, and they don't write hits. You know what I mean?
And I think part of that game changer is how many people decided to pick up the guitar because of Jimi Hendrix. Just Sting from the Police decided to become a musician because of watching Jimi Hendrix for the first time.
Yeah, well, I wanted to be Jimi Hendrix, but like I said, he made me want to pick up the guitar when I was 13. I mean, that was the guy. And when Van Halen came, Eddie Van Halen showed up, there was a whole new generation wanting to pick up a guitar and learning that. I'm sure that a lot of people, I knew a bunch of people that played Eruption. My rhythm guitar player in my first band, that's all he played was Eruption. He learned a generation of hammer-ons. I've never done hammer-ons except in my second album, Armageddon, and that's not even that's not even me playing. That's the guitar, the other guitar player. So he's doing hammer-ons.
He also down-tuned a lot. Didn't he down-tune on many of the songs?
Yeah.
That might have been a David Lee Roth reason, just sort of the vocal reasons. But he did down-tune. And when Sammy Hagar came into the band, he just standard tuning, because Sammy had this wider range, I guess.
I guess so, but a guitar sounds heavier tuned down. You put thicker strings. I play in E-flat tuning. I put bigger strings and it's tuned down. It just sounds heavier. It just has more weight to it. It's just like, now guys are playing with the big string, like 8-string guitars with the whatever is next to B string. It's tuned so low that it sounds like a bass. So everybody's doing that.
But it's like you were saying, one of the stories, Jim, is when Sammy came in the band, he played Dreams. It's a lot of nice lyrics in that song. And Valerie's like, that's great. Listen to the lyrics. Eddie, did you hear that? Eddie's like, what are you talking about? He with David Lee Roth, he never listened to their lyrics. He was just to do his music and let Dave do his thing. And then he's, I'll take some time and that is a good. Yeah, I like those lyrics, Sammy. But for him, it made a difference. The singer was there to do his job, and he was there to do his job. Play guitar.
So true. You just, whatever. Write whatever you want.
Yeah, you do what you want. I know what I'm doing. That's all that matters. So
that's pretty cool. And look, Michael Schenker, Tony Iommi, Neil Schon from Journey. You're talking about the big guitarist of the world. Sort of, I'm sure, I don't know if Jimmy Page said anything or not, but you're talking about the biggest guitarist, in our time at least.
But I mean, even Jimmy Page was incredible. He's like I said, he's the king of the riffs, Jimmy Page. A whole lot of love. You hear that first beginning, Jimmy Page, Black Dog, stuff like that. But like I said, he was a different kind of game changer, but he's not the Hendrix or the Eddie Van Halen. And like I said, in my lifetime, I don't think there's going to be another game changer. But sure, you have good guitar players that are reinventing guitar, like Toba Nabasi and stuff like that play there. But, whether he's affecting, I mean, it's so complicated what he does that it can't affect the regular guitar player. So,
all right. If you were to pick one album, both of you, which would be your favorite Van Halen album? Just one.
For guitar or just the album itself?
Just in general, as Van Halen. It's Eddie Van Halen. He's part of that album. This is a huge part of each album. I mean, what would be your favorite? Is the first one? Most people would say the first one. That was like the biggest game changer of them all.
Yeah, like I said, that took the rawness of the clubs and Ted Templeman brought it to an album.
Don't tell me Sammy Hagar, Alan. Don't give me a Sammy Hagar album.
No, I've always had a.
I can't. You asked me that, and the first thing you asked me when you asked me to do the show was like, name your favorite top 10 Eddie Van Halen solos. And I said, if that's all you want me to talk about, I'm not going to do the show.
Yeah.
So there's not. It's just like pointing which Van Halen records is the best. They all have something great about them, because they all have Eddie Van Halen on them.
True.
They all have his touch. They all have his songs. They all have everything. So there's a bit of everything. Of course, number one is like, you said it told me not to swear in Italian, but but I mean, what the hell is this? What is this band? It's like people will go like, that's raw, that's rock and roll. That's
look at that. Where's this coming from? It's like nobody knew where this coming from. Look at that cover. Everyone.
No, I mean, for me, it's the first line off the first song of the first Van Halen. I live my life like there's no tomorrow. That just summed up the whole group for decades, right?
Exactly.
I've always had a soft spot for women and children first. There's a lot of great tunes on that. So
is that the Incredible Rockers on that?
Yeah. Take Your Whiskey Home in a Simple Rhyme.
But Aldo, you named, when you started off, you named all these songs, and they come from every single album, and
exactly.
Yeah, I get you, man. I get you.
But when Sammy joined the band, let's not forget. I mean, one of the first songs that came out was "Get It Up," and like Eddie was reinvented. Like, I mean, the energy that was coming off of the guitar playing on that song. It's like, hey, we're back. Dave's not here, but we got Sammy, and we're ready to start another career. And they were actually more successful with Sammy than they were with Dave.
First of all, Van Hagar sold more albums than with David Lee Roth. I mean, that's a fact. They sold more. They had more commercial hits, but they were more intellectual, but they're still great. I mean, Sammy Hagar was definitely a good part of Van Halen Part 2. I mean, so they were more like, Why Can't This Be Love is a killer song.
It's true.
A killer pop song. I mean, it's like, it's got keyboards in it. It's like I said, it's got that keyboard player synthesizer line in the back. All stuff you don't notice, but if you start analyzing the song, it's brilliant. And it's written from a keyboard player's frame of mind. It's not written from a guitar player's frame of mind. The whole song is almost keyboards.
All right. Well, I will give you one solo. I just want you to comment on one solo. Beat It with Michael Jackson. I mean, this is like an icon. You're talking about like the king of pop, Michael Jackson. And then you have Eddie Van Halen solo, which I found at the time, all my friends are playing air guitar to this solo. This was probably one of the most, and it's on the radio, it's on AM, it's on FM. It's anywhere you look, Beat It's playing, it's on videos. And Eddie Van Halen was part of that magic. So
story goes that that was his first take. That was his first take. He went in, he played that, and Quincy Jones said, "We don't want anything more." That was it. So
and he did not get paid for it.
No, I think
he did not get paid for it. It's just in this book here. His manager goes, "What do you mean you didn't get paid for it?" Well, Michael asked me. I decided to go. Well, it's no big deal. One of the biggest selling songs of all time. No big deal. But that goes back. That's how Eddie was, right?
Yeah, which is
exactly.
cool.
You said you owe Quincy a favor.
And David's down with the Jungle Studs going through the Amazon because they were on a break. He comes back and he hears this blasting on the radio. He says, "I know that guitar player. I know that sound."
That's it. Yeah. All right, that's pretty much it, unless you guys have anything else to add.
I just got one last quote here from David Coverdale. He says, "I'm astonished by the breadth and scope of Edward's talent. So natural. His playing is raunchy, tasteful, melodic, and unique. He has fun when he plays. There's a celebration and joy in his playing. A serious musician who makes magic look effortless. Edward has all the ammunition in his arsenal." I think that's a great way to finish it.
That's phenomenal. That's,
He sums it all up, and the joyful. That's the early Van Halen you really got into. That just a fun party band, and that's what they were all about.
Exactly. That's the first album was directly out of the clubs into the studio. Like I said, Ted Templeman didn't mess with that. He brought that out. He didn't like try to go, "Oh, we're going to do this and that." Just play like you're playing in clubs. Play your set, and like you were playing it in clubs, like you're playing it to the world this time, and it worked. They had something special.
Yeah. It is. We don't want our heroes to die. We want them to live forever. I think that's what the problem is. We can't. It's hard to accept. Because they're so much a part of our life.
Just when you thought 2020 couldn't suck anymore, Eddie Van Halen passes away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy. We just don't want our. At least our heroes have left us with this music that will last, for generations and generations.
The legacy.
The legacy, yeah.
The legacy, yeah.
All right, Aldo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And everybody else, there's like tons of comments and cool stuff. And everybody.
There's probably go on for weeks, exactly.
I think it's just going to keep going. And thank you very much, everybody, for joining. And Aldo, thank you for being part of our discussion today. I think it was fitting to have a multi-instrumentalist talk about a multi-instrumentalist. And good luck with your new album. I just out of appreciation, good luck with your new album. And I know it's coming out. Well, you'll be releasing the track slowly, and
we're here to talk about it. Eddie.
I got it, but I just wanted to, out of appreciation, I just wanted to plug that. That's all. All right. Okay.
I'll flog my album on somebody else's time.
All right. Okay. All right, man. Have yourself a great day.
All right, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Care. Bye.